Hello there and welcome to the most watched business show in the country. This is the Business Weekly Show here on City TV and I am your host Michael Obodu. Please follow me on Twitter at @mobodu. In the next 1 hour, I'll be bringing you a wrap of all the major business news stories for the week. So if you're ready, let's go. Ghana's inflation for May this year has soared again to hit 27.6%. This is an increase from the 23.6% recorded in April 2022. What could have accounted for this latest development?
According to the government statistician, Professor Samuel Kobina Enim, the rates of inflations for transport, household equipment and maintenance, housing, water, gas and electricity, and food and non-alcoholic beverages were higher than the national average of 27.6%. In May 2022, 12 of the 13 divisions recorded inflation rates higher than the rolling average from June 2021 to May 2022. The data showed that food inflation in May was 30.1% compared with 26.6% in April. Non-food inflation was however 25.7% in the month under review as against 21.3% in the previous month. The margins between food and non-inflation was 4.4 percentage points relative to 5.4 percentage points for March 2022 and 5.3 percentage points for April 2022. The government statistician Professor Samuel Kobina Enim gives a further breakdown of the figures.
We identified 89 items that recorded inflation rates higher than the national average of 27.6%. Out of these 89 items, 47 of them were food inflation, specifically with local food 32%, 32 of them, and imported food 15%, culminating into a percentage of 52.3% for the contribution of food to the items that recorded inflation rates higher than the national average of 27.6%. This led to non-food, that is from a local produce perspective and imported perspective, recording 47.7% relative to the items that recorded inflation rates higher than the national average of 27.6%. We identified the top 10 items that have the highest weight in the basket for the computation of CPI and rate of inflation. And of these 10 items, the item that recorded the highest rate of inflation for the month of May 2022 was bread with an inflation rate of 41.3%, followed by bars and trotro fares, which has the highest weight of 5.8%, recording a year-on-year inflation of 39.9%. From the perspective of households in terms of decision making, discounting the effect of weight, we still saw diesel and petrol being part of the top 5 items that recorded the highest rate of inflation, specifically 81.1% and 62.0%.
The constant rise in Ghana's inflation rate is a cause for concern for a lot of people. But what is the way forward? Are things ever going to get better? And what can be done to salvage the situation?
As at May 2021, Ghana was enjoying the lowest rate of inflation it had recorded in years. At 7.5%, the rate, which saw a reduction as a result of a decline in food inflation at the time, had fallen within the medium-term target band of the Bank of Ghana, which is 6 to 10%. Fast forward to May 2022, and the story couldn't be any different. National inflation as at May this year had risen for 12 straight months, hitting an 18-year high of 27.6%. Some stakeholders have been urging managers of the Ghanaian economy to shift focus from trying to use monetary policy to curb inflation and rather focus on using fiscal policy to address the problem, as inflation as it stands now is being driven by supply-side related costs and issues. Speaking to City News, a Deputy Finance Minister, Dr. John Kuma, assured of introducing some more measures in addition to the ones they announced some months back to address the issue of rising inflation in the country.
It's a difficult time looking at the combination of different things like food prices going up, fuel prices going up, and then of course these fiscal issues also, inflation going up. These are a combination of factors that are causing some difficulties in the economy. The good news is that these are temporary difficulties and hurdles that government will cross very soon. It is part of the symptoms of recovery from COVID. I mean, the government actually is responding in several fronts. I mean, the Bank of Ghana have announced a number of monetary policies. Ministry of Finance, we've also announced a number of fiscal measures. We'll continue to do so. In fact, the mid-year budget is coming. We are going to take several initiatives to address some of these imported inflation concerns in our country, and also how we can bring back the target. In fact, this year our inflation target was 8% plus or minus 2. So where we are is way overboard, and we are not happy with it. But we strongly believe that we will quickly come back within the target.
Meanwhile, economist with Databank Research, Courage Mate, believes the time for targeted fiscal policy interventions like subsidies for key sectors like agriculture to check the rising rate of food prices, which feeds into food inflation as well as national inflation, is now.
So overall, I think that this is a data that confirms that we are not in normal times. This is a data that also confirms that monetary policy alone cannot solve the situation. And this is data that also confirms that fiscal policy needs to be more targeted and not blanket or sweeping scale implementation. And talking about more targeted fiscal policy, if we have a fiscal policy that is more targeted, we could find a way of mitigating the cost pressures that is being imposed by inflation. So for instance, you could argue for subsidies, but you could only have argued for subsidies if we have a system that is able to accurately identify the segment of societies that needs to be subsidized, that need to be given cash handouts or coupon handouts. But our system does not allow that. You know, one of the reasons why you could say inflation in Ghana is 27.6% and in our neighboring Nigeria is only about 17%, they are adopting a subsidy system, right? The subsidy is not an efficient system, but they are adopting a subsidy system which is helping to contain the rise in inflation. In Ghana, we will not argue for this kind of subsidy, but we would argue for a more targeted subsidy.
The inflation issue might not be going away anytime soon. Farmers in the Upper East region say the high cost of farm inputs will affect crop yields for the 2022 farming season. They are warning that there could be a possible food shortage if government does not drastically subsidize inputs. These farmers have been compelled by the situation to farm below their average capacities.
The 2022 planting season has commenced in the Upper East region, with many farmers chasing tractor services to plow their farms. According to farmers, the over 50% hikes in farm inputs, fertilizer, and agrochemicals is making the venture more challenging. As COVID-19 continues to impact negatively on agricultural supply chains, there are urgent calls for developing countries to boost agri production through interventions targeting farmers. Speaking to City News, some cereal farmers in Bogatanga say the high cost of farm inputs and late arrival of fertilizers will affect cereals production this year.
Because this is what we are seeing. The fertilizer we have not seen the fertilizer up to now. And we don't know when it's coming and whether it will come. And then the price too is going high. And then chemicals too is the same thing. And the seed too is the same thing. So we don't know whether there's a support coming ahead about it. And more to the point, most of the farmers are even running out from the maize farming this year. If they didn't see that the fertilizer is coming low price for them. Because here some places they sell 120, 500, 450. So means that this year is going to be a challenge for the farmers.
Last year I was farming some of the maize, rice, and then I also farmed some of the pepper. By this year, the cost of the fertilizer and then the chemicals, this year I can't farm it. Last year, some of the chemicals was 25 Ghana cedis. By this year, it was 50 Ghana cedis. Some of the fertilizer was 200, and then this year too, it was 400. So because of that one, I can't use it to farm.
For fertilizer and agrochemical dealers in the region, high import duties, the depreciation of the cedi, and high fuel prices account for the hikes in farm inputs.
What accounts to this price increase has to be with price changes in fuel. The fuel prices in Ghana is increasing almost every year. Last year, if you should transport a vehicle from Tema to Boga, it was around 9 Ghana cedis. But this year, if you're importing fertilizer per bag from Tema to Boga, it's now 15 Ghana cedis. So if you should do that kind of cost, bringing in those fertilizer from Tema, you cannot sell it less than 160 Ghana cedis. So basically, transportation cost has gone high, importation cost has gone high, the dollar has also gone high, which has made the depreciation catch our cedi. So if you look at these three basic factors, prices of agrochemicals will definitely go high this year.
But the Upper East Regional Director of MOFA, Francis Eno, explains the cause for the hikes in farm inputs and impressed on farmers to consider organic fertilizer as an alternative to boost productivity.
Yeah, really, if you look at the high cost of the fertilizer, it will actually affect the productivity or the production of the farmers. Because if the prices are very high, they will not be able to maintain the sizes of their farm that they have been used to. Yes, so what we are telling the farmers is that, yes, if you have been cultivating 10 acres of maize, for instance, over the years, and because of you can water, don't say you won't do at all. You just have it, cultivate 10 now, and the 10 acres, or you can use it to produce the leguminous crop, soya bean, groundnut, coffee, they are there. These do not consume a lot of fertilizers, so that you will still be able to make it from the leguminous side. So you are advancing there. Unfortunately, the government has given a lot of the organic fertilizer this year, and we are encouraging our farmers that they should rely most on the organic fertilizers.
It isn't just food security we have to be concerned about. The price of fuel is becoming an everyday headache. Petrol now sells for over 10 Ghana cedis, and for diesel, the least said about it, the better, because how do you explain the fact that the price of the product has almost doubled over the past 6 months? Consumers aren't happy with the rampant increases, and the Chamber of Petroleum Consumers Ghana, COPEC, wants the matter looked into.
The National Petroleum Authority (NPA), as part of the price deregulation process, employs a 2-week inventory window that allows for an adjustment of prices of petroleum products every month. On the back of this, oil marketing companies have adjusted their prices under the first pricing window for June, which have currently impacted prices of petroleum products at the fuel pumps. Following the price adjustment, diesel is selling for over 12 Ghana cedis 10 pesos at major pumps, while petrol is selling for over 10 Ghana cedis 10 pesos. This development has worsened the plight of transport operators, particularly those who use diesel.
We know it will come, but we are not expecting that margin of more than 1 cedi or 1 cedi. At least we want life to be normal, so we thought it would just be not more than 40 pesos or 30 pesos. We have no any option. If they will not see to it that the fuel comes down, and their way of doing this is to increase the fuel for us every day. If they increase, we shall also increase our fares.
I'm handling almost about 12 buses, that is VIP buses. The last week, one of the buses went to Wa. When he brought his wheel, the money that they gave him was almost about 10,500. That's 105 million. But he was able to do 2,500 as sales. Almost over 8,000 has gone into a diesel.
However, prior to the increment, the Chamber of Petroleum Consumers Ghana (COPEC) had predicted that the price of diesel was to see a reduction by about 30 pesos, while petrol would increase by 40 pesos and more, but that was not realized. Against this backdrop, the Executive Secretary for COPEC, Duncan Amoah, says he has requested that NPA reviews the price adjustment of diesel.
The first window, June, was expected to have petrol go up, diesel inch down a little bit. Unfortunately, what we have seen at the pumps currently is a price anomaly, where diesel rather has shot up drastically, and petrol has also gone up by a few points, about 2-3%. We do want an investigation conducted into this because it really defeats the numbers that we have seen per the industry movements. And we do think that if it is a supplier's premium bit that has drastically shot up, the earlier we are told, the better. But what we are observing at the pumps currently is quite frightening. If it's also the case that OMCs, BDCs have increased their margins, we should be told. But this is exactly at variance with what we expected at the pumps. When you do about 60-70 peso jump in diesel price, you are dealing with almost 6-7%, as opposed to an expectation that it could have gone down by some 2%. So overall, you are doing about 8 to 10%, anomaly. We would want to believe that something has happened behind the scenes that we are not aware of. But the diesel pricing that we are seeing for us is quite worrying.
Petroleum products in the country used to sell at 6 Ghana cedis at the start of the year 2022, but have subsequently seen significant surge in the last 6 months.
Talking about increments, some utility providers had some time back proposed an increment in their tariffs because they argued that it had become necessary to sustain their operations. In one instance, almost 300% upward adjustments were suggested. For the Electricity Company of Ghana (ECG), a former power minister, Kwabena Donkor, believes the increment would not solve the utility company's challenge. Here's why.
The Electricity Company of Ghana (ECG) last month proposed that its tariffs be increased by 148% for 2022 and with 7.6% average adjustments between the periods of 2023 and 2026. The proposed sharp increment, according to ECG, is due to the gap between the actual cost recovery tariff and PURC-approved tariffs, as well as the cost of completed projects. Similarly, the Ghana Water Company Limited also proposed an increment in its tariffs by over 300% to be able to at least recover its operational cost. The proposals have since generated huge public discussions, with majority of the public kicking against the request. The Public Utilities and Regulatory Commission (PURC) is currently holding broad consultations with all stakeholders, including members of parliament, on the proposals and will make a final announcement on the agreed percentage increase it will allow. It has up to July 2022 to announce the new utility tariffs. But the former Minister for Power, Dr. Kwabena Donkor, believes it will take more than a tariff adjustment to salvage the Electricity Company of Ghana from its current financial woes. In an interview with City Business News, Dr. Donkor, who doubles as the ranking member on the Employment, Social Welfare and State Enterprises Committee in Parliament, underscored the need for ECG to deal with its perennial technical and managerial challenges instead of focusing on the tariff increment.
ECG has a fundamental problem. It has a fundamental problem of non-collection. It has a fundamental problem of lethargic management. They have a fundamental problem of political and non-commercial interventions. Let me give you an example. ECG is currently making commercial and technical losses of 30%. By this, what do I mean? That if ECG buys power, 100 units of power, either from VRE or other generators, it is only able to sell 70 units. So no matter the markup you give them, it will not make up for the 30% loss. And the 30% losses are made up of technical losses because they have underinvested over the years, and therefore the technical infrastructure leaks power when they are transmitting power on their distribution lines. And commercial losses. Commercial loss is a nice term for plain thievery. People stealing power. And therefore, if we don't plug the loopholes, the tariff adjustment will not be able to seal the financial hole that ECG finds itself in.
A recent report by research and advisory firm Confidence has revealed that Ghanaian products in supermarkets have seen a marginal increase in 2022. This is quite commendable since the opposite has been the case over the past years. To sustain this, attractive trade finance products have to be developed for small and medium-sized enterprises to support their businesses.
In the third edition of the Confidence Made in Ghana survey of Ghana's leading retail supermarkets, Ghanaian products in supermarkets saw a marginal increase. Across all 11 supermarkets considered, Made in Ghana brands constituted 31% of the 20 selected product categories, while foreign brands comprised 69%. The Made in Ghana share was 18% in the 2019 survey and 26% in the 2020 survey. The report noted that the improved performance of Made in Ghana products is not due to a significant increase in the absolute count of Ghanaian brands on the shelves, but rather a significant decline in the number of foreign brands on the shelves compared to previous years. It further attributed the decline in foreign products sold across the leading retail chains in the country to the severe COVID-19 induced global supply chain crisis. The head of research at Confidence, Bismarck Elom Ado, has been interacting with City Business News.
Supply chain crisis was partly because of the COVID pandemic, and so the supply chain crisis caused the malls may have caused the malls not to stock in many product categories that we looked at, and so that was a clear opportunity for Ghanaian producers to actually prove themselves that look, if your global supply chain network fail you, we in the domestic market can actually, come up and then, produce to that same quality and standard as your international, partners would do often. So I think that was an opportunity that I think that the crisis, presented to us, but I think we failed to take advantage of this, based on the fact that we could see only in about 50 more count in terms of Made in Ghana brands. Yeah.
In order to have more locally produced items in the supermarkets, Bismarck Ado believes more finance must be made available to the small and medium-sized enterprises, since this is one of the major obstacles they face.
It has to be a coordinated approach. Like I mentioned, the FDA is doing its part using the progressive licensing scheme and has gotten the malls to sign up onto it. Like I mentioned, this is good, but it has to be coordinated with other programs, other solutions. So I mentioned that financing is key, and I think that this cannot be done without a financing program, as part of it. So there has to be a need to develop some sort of very attractive trade finance products for SMEs to tap into for such very short-term trade finance needs, of these SMEs.
The president of the Ghana Sicily Business Forum, Francesco Campagna, is urging Ghanaian small and medium-scale enterprises to develop sustained relationships with their counterparts abroad. Mr. Campana believes Africa is the future the world is looking at, exploring, but Ghanaian SMEs must build sustainable cooperation to benefit.
The 3-month Palermo municipality delegation visit to Sekondi Takoradi was an exchange visit to strengthen the relationship between the cities of Sekondi Takoradi and Palermo municipality in Italy under the 3-year European Union-funded Twin Cities and Sustainable Partnership project. The €3 million project has 3 objectives of ensuring improved multi-urban level governance, climate change and culture, as well as tourism development. Speaking to City Business News on the sidelines of their visit to the Western Regional Minister's office, the president of the Ghana-Sicily Business Forum said Africa is the future and SMEs must strategize to have a win-win benefit through cooperation.
30 years, the average age of Africans, the demographic issue, the number of people, the resources, and now the process of stabilization that apart Ghana, that is maybe the strongest on the democratic credentiality, but the other countries step by step. I think that the place for the development is in Africa, and Africa now is a global actor. If we think to the African Free Trade Agreement, for example, now Africa is a player, a global player. So if a company, if a businessman want to look for a development, has to look at Africa. We have to build, first of all, an architecture of collaboration, of cooperation. Because if we are focused on building a efficient, a fruitful architecture of cooperation, will be possible to involve small and medium enterprise of both sides in shared projects for win-win solutions.
Western Regional Minister, who told the visiting Italian team that his office is ready to support such cooperation, added that Ghana has a lot to offer.
I believe that if we're able to do this collaboration together, we'll be able to build the working space or the manufacturing space or the business face, so that our young ones will prefer to stay here, create opportunities for themselves, get jobs for themselves, and even be able to connect better. You should help us with some of the things that you've done business-wise in Palermo, Sicily, with our Chamber of Commerce, so that the businessmen will look at these opportunities and then collaborate with businessmen across the length and breadth of Sicily and Palermo, so that we can grow our economies together. We have a port, and that's the first port in Ghana, and then we have the highest draft of 16 meters in Ghana. And we strongly believe that with your collaboration with the business area, with the support of your city council, we'll be able to build upon this phase of the work to include a lot of our business people to also continue.
The visiting delegation from Palermo municipality also interacted with the Sekondi Takoradi Chamber of Commerce.
City TV is live on DSTV. Go to channel 363. On GoTV, access City TV on channel 182. On a digital TV, please press the menu button on the remote control and run a new search on your TV. Take note that without an antenna, you cannot access City TV on your television. City TV can be accessed on a free-to-air digital box like the GoTV and Star Times box. City TV, it's your world.
Now to the aviation industry, and if you are planning of flying British Airways, please update yourself with their new flight days for the Accra-London-Accra route. They have reduced the days from 7 to 5 per week. But what could be the BA's reason for such a decision?
British Airways announced in its 2022 Q1 results that it plans to cut capacity by 5% to offer more stable operations. According to the airline, the reduction in its schedule to Ghana and other parts of the world will cover the summer period. The cut in the flight schedule on the Accra-London-Accra route is believed to have started from late May and should stay in effect till September. Leading travel websites and international news portals have blamed the situation on staff shortages within the aviation industry. Many workers in the aviation industry were made redundant or left the sector during the COVID-19 pandemic when international travel was grounded for months at a time. In a statement to its agents and other trade partners, the airline stated that it is giving customers the option to rebook onto alternate flights and are utilizing larger aircraft where appropriate. For some flights, British Airways says customers may be asked to follow up directly with their travel agents, and should customers no longer wish to travel, they can obtain a full refund as per the standard customer guidelines of British Airways, the statement added. In an interview with City Business News on the development, aviation analyst Sean Mendes noted that the changes to the schedule will definitely lead to some inconvenience and is likely to lead to a hike in ticket prices.
BA is the only airline operating non-stop between Ghana and the UK, so definitely that means there is a reduction of about 25 to 30% of the capacity in the market. They've made up for it slightly by putting in a higher density aircraft, so one with more seats. So the total number of seats is not quite as bad a reduction. However, the convenience of having the daily flight is no longer there for non-stop. The EU countries in the Schengen area are no longer able to allow transit without visa for passengers traveling to the UK since the UK has exited the EU by Brexit. So that also reduces the options for a passenger from Ghana. However, Ghana is fortunate enough that there are 20-something international airlines serving Ghana. So whether the option is to go via Istanbul with Turkish Airlines, via Doha with Qatar Airways, via Dubai with Emirates, or through any of the other possible routings through Lagos, wherever else, these options do exist for the traveler. They won't be as convenient, and of course seats on the non-stop flight will be on a premium. We've already seen that some of these prices have gone up to as much as £3,000 round trip in the peak of the summer season. So certainly it'll be expensive and inconvenient summer for people traveling to the UK this year, but that's not going to be unique to the Ghana market. It's going to be pretty much worldwide for anyone trying to visit the UK this summer.
If you pay salaries of your employees via mobile money, you now have the chance to make a claim for the total amount of electronic transfer levy paid on those transactions at the end of the year. This was disclosed by the Ghana Revenue Authority at a workshop to sensitize taxpayers on the implementation of the levy.
The Ghana Revenue Authority's workshop sought to bring together some identifiable groups and sensitize them on the implementation of the Electronic Transfer Levy Act 2002, Act 1075. Among other things, the head of the Project Management Unit at the authority, Isaac Amwako, explained that companies that pay salaries via mobile money now have the chance to make a claim for the total amount of e-levy paid on the salaries at the end of the financial year. He gave more details as to how this policy works in an interaction with City Business News.
If you look at the coverage of the e-levy, there were 5 transfer types that if you do, you will pay the e-levy. Momo to Momo or wallet to wallet on the same platform and on different platform. Then also from bank account to wallet. Now this is where a company that intends to pay salaries using the bank to wallet would have to pay the e-levy. The caveat here is that when they pay the levy doesn't become a foregone expense on them. They can deduct that amount when they are preparing their financials to GRE as a deductible expense. So that's the explanation for companies that pay their workers through mobile money.
The second phase of the implementation of the e-levy is set to begin on 1st July of this year. What are some of the policies Ghanaians are to expect in this phase? Isaac Amwako tells us more.
In the first phase, we announced to the general public that the charging entities will be charging the e-levy on their own individual systems. And for that matter, some transactions which under the law are not supposed to suffer the e-levy will suffer the e-levy and then customers need to then go and complain to their charging entities and get a refund. In the second phase, we want to avoid this situation. So what will happen is that there's a common platform that the charging entities will all connect to, and then that platform will be able to tell if somebody has exhausted their 100 Ghana cumulative allowable transfer in a day, or if that person is the same person, if their Ghana card information has been updated. And then it will avoid a situation where people are even making transfer to their own account and they get e-levy taxed on them. That is what the second phase will do come 1st July.
The Institute of Statistical, Social and Economic Research, ISE, wants a relook at the incentive regime for private sector businesses to enable them grow and sustain their operations. According to the institute, government should consider giving tax incentive to industries that play a key role in the economy.
The call by the Director of the Institute of Statistical, Social and Economic Research, ISE, Professor Peter Quartey, follows requests by many stakeholders to government to put in place measures to ensure that the state is not deprived of billions of cedis through tax exemptions every year. The tax exemptions bill was laid in Parliament in the first quarter of 2019 to, among other things, streamline the tax exemption regime in the country. But since then, nothing has been done. The bill was one of the exit requirements under the Extended Credit Facility Program with the IMF, which ended in April 2019. In November last year, the Minister of State at the Ministry of Finance, Charles Edubuahing, announced that plans were far advanced for the passage of the tax exemptions bill as Cabinet was deliberating on the final draft. Already, data from the Institute of Economic Affairs shows that Ghana loses over 5 billion Ghana cedis every year through tax exemptions alone. Speaking on the issue, Director of ISE, Professor Peter Quartey, urged government to rather consider giving tax incentives to industries that play key roles in the economy to ensure it does not keep losing billions of cedis to tax exemptions.
I think the incentive regime have to be looked at carefully. Government using these fiscal incentives is reaching out to the private sector. Equally, you expect the private sector to also perform its role. We have these tax exemptions. Last year or a year ago, we were about 4.5 billion import exemptions alone. I see in the 2022 budget, government has budgeted 2-point-something billion cedis. It's coming down, which is very good. However, I would want government to go a step further to ensure that tax exemptions are given to industries to perform certain roles, to employ, to produce, to export, bring in foreign exchange revenue. We should put in mechanisms for monitoring some of this so that we get value for money. And I think that's one thing I expect the engagement with SMEs. It should be a win-win situation for government and for the private sector.
There has been some improvement in the purchase of insurance policies in the country, but the industry hasn't grown enough to make huge contribution to our gross domestic product. To ensure increased awareness, more investment must be made to educate people on the need for insurance.
Insurance coverage or uptake of insurance products by workers in Ghana currently stands at around 45% relative to the entire working population, be it formal or informal. The penetration rate of the industry, which is a measure of the contribution of the industry to the country's gross domestic product, is however low, hanging at just around 1% in recent times. The industry's role in the economy, however, cannot be overlooked. It continues to act as a backbone to thriving societies by providing indemnity against the loss of life and property. In an attempt to further improve uptake of insurance products and raise general levels of awareness, the Ghana Insurers Association (GIA), in collaboration with Graphic Business, have launched a 2022 Insurance Awareness Month. Speaking to City Business News on the sidelines of the launch, the president of the GIA, Seth Aklasi, noted that the fortunes of the industry will greatly improve if impactful awareness is created.
Fundamentally, the whole essence of insurance is to pay claims. We are set up to take care of people's needs at the point that unfortunate incidences occur. So that is the principle of insurance, that is the very essence of insurance, and then we need to give it that attention. Unfortunately for us, the key challenge we have is that people do not really see or are aware of the number of claims we pay and the amount we pay. I did earlier state that we pay in excess of 4 million Ghana cedis every day in insurance claims on a daily basis. So if you multiply that by the number of years, the 365, you could just imagine how much you pay compared to what our gross premiums are. People assume that they pay claims and then they might go for 5 years without making a claim. But then there are loads of people that make claims. Currently, the only way we compete among ourselves as an industry is how quickly claims are paid. Our regulator sanctions you if you do not pay claims in a specific number of days. And that is what we think that people should be aware of. That is the whole point about the insurance awareness. If people become aware of the benefits of insurance, they can transfer the risk to it.
On his part, the chairman of the Insurance Awareness Coordinators Group, IACG, Wilson Tay, called on insurance companies in the country to prioritize selling their products to the informal sector to help boost their profitability levels.
So the informal sector is the backbone of Ghana's industry. Ghana's financial system generally. All the money is actually in the informal sector, right? But what they lack is the financial intermediation. They've been left behind a bit in the past. So we are concentrating on bringing them up to speed so that they understand that their losses can be minimized by buying insurance upfront. See, like they say, insurance is the only product that provides you with cash when you need it. And also, insurance is the product that you cannot buy when you need it. You should buy it well in advance.
Finally on the show, we'll bring you highlights of the various topics that have been discussed throughout the week on the City Business Festival. This week focused on how to reset your SME after COVID. Check it out.
The business world has not been the same after COVID-19 first broke out in 2019. Ghana has had its fair share of the impact as the many pandemic-induced restrictions affected various sectors of the economy. Many players in the tourism industry, for instance, were forced out of business, while others were compelled to downsize to sustain their operations. After a successful rollout of vaccines and the removal of most of the COVID-19 restrictions, things are almost back to pre-pandemic levels. But how do businesses, particularly micro to medium companies, fully resettle from shock of the pandemic? This week on the City Business Festival Honor Series, we will be discussing resetting your SME after COVID, and Taka Awori, CEO of Busara Africa Limited, has been sharing some insights on leadership tips for a business reset.
14 principles, but let me lift up 3 of them, which I think are particularly relevant in the context of MSMEs, resetting and rebuilding post-COVID, post everything that we're going through. And the 3 are around embracing failure and building resistance, understanding value and empowering others, and the 3rd is leading change. Okay, let me just go through each of them really quickly.
Embracing failure and building resilience.
So with the first one, it's recognizing, and I know you've also seen this, but I don't think there is one business person who for every success they have had does not have 10 failures to go along with it. I'm in business and I know how it goes. It's not a straight line. It's about the valleys and the highs. In the book, I give the example of an amazing woman, Karine Bokovo. She's a successful entrepreneur who runs an SME in Benin, and they do fruit and vegetable processing. Karine talks about how she started her business with $6 a day and now has grown into a thriving SME in Benin. But what Karine talks about is really some of the lowest moments of her business to where she is now. And so what that brings up for me is that as you're running a business, you start to realize that you're not immune from valleys and setbacks like COVID. Nothing ever immunizes from you. But what distinguishes the leaders who run SMEs who bounce back and the ones who that becomes the end is how they respond to crises and failure. So again, everyone, whether you find the successful ones or not, there isn't one business that can say it's just been a smooth run. The difference that will make you successful or not is how you respond to failure, crises, and setbacks. And it's the mindset. So people like Karine, what is this big difference? They reframe setbacks, such as COVID, as a clarifying moment.
Working from home became the new normal for many companies at the peak of the pandemic, as businesses were compelled to adopt convenient ways to continue operating. Through technological means, employees of such companies were able to continue their work remotely from the comfort of their homes. Even though this is a major enabler for businesses, it also has its downsides.
I think is one of the challenges that the COVID brought. So you're working from home, your wife is around, and your wife is not an employee, okay, and you're discussing numbers, you're discussing strategies, or your brother is around, or you've gone to sit, because you're not getting connectivity, you've gone to sit in a restaurant somewhere taking coffee, and you're discussing business. Okay, so those are some of the challenges that
somebody's sitting opposite you,
somebody's
and it's
sitting
videoing you,
and it's videoing you. Okay, capturing your screen and all of that.
Speaking during the City Business Festival Honor Series on the topic New Tools for the Post-COVID Workspace, Richard Densu, Senior Manager in charge of Enterprise for MTN and MTN Business, shared some tips on how to secure one's space and eliminate threats of a likely systems attack.
So, first of all, it has to start with you as an individual. You must have that consciousness that this poses a security challenge. So what can I do about it? Okay, so you're making sure that you're always locking your screen. Those are basic things. You don't need tools for that. Make sure you lock your screen if you're living there. If you're going to have discussions, if you can use the earpiece, fine, and also conscious about the people around and all of that. And you also should know that it's not everywhere you can discuss everything. Okay, so wherever you are sitting, or seated, you are conscious, you're scanning your environment. So that is important. And then there are also people who are advanced, so they would want to tap because your internet is not secure. You're using public Wi-Fi, so it's important that you log in using your company's VPN network. And for most companies, they have the VPN network. Log in using that, and so that then your data transfer and all of that is secure.
So don't work with public Wi-Fi.
You can if you don't have any other option, but then realize that you are exposed.
Various businesses are still striving to recover from the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic as things gradually return to pre-pandemic levels. Speaking during the forum, the Chief Executive Officer of Busara Africa, Taka Awuri, stressed that small and medium-sized enterprises must come together and leverage on each other's competitive advantage to stay afloat and remain relevant. According to her, this will enable them adapt and surmount the challenges posed by the COVID-19 pandemic on their operations.
Innovation can happen at different levels. So on one hand, we've talked a lot, I think, as part of this business festival around technology and how you leverage technology around innovation. So I think that's an obvious one. But another pathway to innovation is what we talked about before in terms of partnerships. I think one of the things we saw coming up as a result of COVID was these innovative partnerships where you have delivery and transport with food providers, food vendors and restaurants. So it's really for business owners to start to think, to be resilient, to be able to bounce back. Maybe I can't do it on my own. Who do I need to partner with outside of my sector and my industry so that I'm able to provide this service in different ways? So those are the kinds of things around innovation.
Okay.
And then cash.
And I like how you look in that direction, because you've got private cash and government cash. Cash is all over there.
Cash,
so, yes.
I think we all recognize that as business owners, the reality is, as we always say, cash is king.
Cash is king.
And particularly if you're talking resilience, if you're talking about being able to cope through these rough periods, how are you managing your finances? And I listened to some of the things you were suggesting in your show, which I think are critical. It's down to, for instance, what we often recommend is, how are you diversifying your income stream?
On the other hand, Chief Executive Officer of the Ghana Enterprises Agency, Kosi Yankee Aye, believes the pandemic has highlighted the need for industrialization in the country. She stressed that now more than ever, efforts must be made to sustain local production to protect the country's economy from global shocks.
The beauty of it was how Ghanaians were able to quickly convert the work they were doing, and goes back to what Taka is talking about in terms of diversity. Like if we can change so quickly during a pandemic, we can diversify quickly as well. Yeah. So you had people who were making alcohol now making sanitizers, and everyone was buying it. People who were making cover and slits for funerals were now making face masks because you had to quickly come up with ways. And so we paid close attention to those sectors as well. The trade and commerce is a very big sector, and it makes up almost 70% of your economy as well, because there are a lot of people trading. But one of the things that I always say is that we've always seen trading as only people who go to China to come in, without realizing that these traders are playing a major role in supporting the industrialization of this country. And so post-COVID, what we've all come to realize is the need to push and strengthen industrialization. Because you can't sit and wait anymore.
No.
If you look at the world, it's not a Ghana problem. Globally, I mean, if you travel now, there are certain shops you can't even get things to buy because the supply chain has changed, right? It's cut off.
The main sponsor of the City Business Festival 2022 edition is Absa Bank. It is also supported by MTN Momo and MTN Business Support, IT Consortium, the Ghana Investment Promotion Center, and GESAL.
If you missed out on any of the episodes of the City Business Festival On Air series, you can check out our SoundCloud account, search for City 97.3, and you find all the tapes there. You can also check out our YouTube channels, and where we've uploaded all of these videos, and our websites also. If you want more business stories, don't miss out on the Business Dashboard also, which airs on City TV at 10 p.m. sharp every weekday, with a repeat the following day at 7 and 10:30 a.m. Well, this is all time will allow us for this week's edition of the Business Weekly Show here on City TV, your most watched business show in the country. Let's connect on Twitter at @mobodu. My name is Michael Obodu. Catch you same time next week. Stay safe, stay informed. Bye-bye.